Okay, this is my presentation of my teacher toolkit. In order to do this, I decided to create a Weebly website to showcase all of the things that I'm going to include. So when you're on the website, which is EDT6065 teachertoolkit.weebly.com, you hover over the home button and it brings up the sub menu for my tools that I'm going to talk about today. The first one that I'm going to talk about is Powtoon. If you are to look at the Horizon Report for 2015, Powtoon could actually be something that would be included in blended learning. Blended learning pertains to the integration of online delivery, and this is something that a teacher could use to create something that they could send out to their students to either teach them in maybe a flipped classroom scenario or also to give them different things that they could be utilizing in addition to the classroom instruction to help them understand a little bit more of what the teacher is teaching. Additionally, Powtoon could also be used as a student resource so that students could create animated presentations to display what knowledge that they've gotten from the lesson or about the specific material. So in the website that I made, I've put the movie that gives a little short snippet on how actually Powtoon works, and I've also put a link to Powtoon so that if you did want to use it, you could just click right on that and it will bring you to that. I have an example here. Actually, this is a movie that one of my students recently has created for me on Powtoon about the verb ser. She created it very easily and she was able to just send me the link so that I could look to see what exactly her understanding of the verb ser is. Let it scroll through a little bit so you could see. It enables the students to use cute little slides and transitions, and it's very, very user-friendly, so it's a really great tool for students and teachers alike to use. So that is Powtoon. The second thing that I would like to talk about is Blipper. Blipper is an augmented reality application. Augmented reality is a technology, according to this article. Again, this is from the Augmented Reality in Education and Training by Camden Lee. So augmented reality allows computer-generated and virtual reality stuff to be overlaid on things that you create in your classroom. There's a lot of things that you could do with augmented reality, actually, and it's definitely one of the newer things, in my opinion, that is able to show up in classrooms and have teachers use. So basically, what Blipper is, it's an app that kids can use on their phones or on their tablets, and they scan something, and it brings whatever that scan is to life. You could think of it as kind of like a glorified QR code. So they scan it, and it can either bring them to a website or it could make something pop up on their screen. It makes it more interesting, and it gives things a little bit more interactivity. So the video that I've included on this website shows how these teachers made their math textbooks interactive using this Blipper application. I've also added a Blipper link right there in case you wanted to check it out there. I personally have used the Blipper app in my class a few times. I've created blippable objects that show the problem or question, and then the students needed to be able to answer the question based off of what came up once they blipped stuff. So I have the links to the Android app and the iOS app here too if you guys would want to try it. If you did, this is an example of something that I did in my classroom. You would need to go to settings and set your campaign code to 18620. The Blipper for Education, you are not able to actually publish your stuff. It is only accessible if you put in the campaign code. So it's a little bit different than like advertisers. Like for instance, I found this when my son noticed it on our Lucky Charms box at home. And when I was using it on the Lucky Charms box, I didn't have to enter anything. But when you are using this for education, you'll have to tell your students to enter all the code in for you personally, otherwise it won't work. But anyways, this was the picture that I had chosen, and the sentence was in Spanish, of course. Derek plays basketball better than the boy. And then when the students blipped this image, it brought up an image of a boy playing basketball, and then Derek rose, and the boy was not playing basketball very well. So then they had to determine whether or not the answer was true or false. The Blipper dashboard looks something like this. So you can see this is my comparatives activity that I created, and then these were all of my markers. And you go through and you click on it, and it will show you what it's a little bit slow. but it will show you what you've added, and you have the opportunity, like I said, you could add links to videos, you could add links to their websites, you could add audio that comes up, you could add pictures. For this particular activity, I basically just added the picture, and like I said, when the students clicked on it, this was the image that came up, and this is what the builder looks like so that you can see what you've uploaded and what you have to use. So it's really kind of cool. The students found it very interesting and engaging. Unfortunately, most of the augmented reality stuff that I've used, especially Aurasma is another one, it's not 100% ready to go yet. A lot of times students had difficulty blipping things, or they had to hold their phone or the iPad like a certain way, or it wouldn't work. So it definitely has some kinks that need to be worked out, and hopefully in a few years this will really be something that a lot of teachers can utilize in their classrooms, because I think that it does engage the students a lot because it's something new and different. The third tool that I would like to talk about is Quizalize. Quizalize is a online formative assessment tool that teachers can create games. So this is a gamification, as well as also a way that teachers are able to create data. So it's almost a learning analytic Web 2.0 tool, because as the students are completing these activities, the data is continuously collected and collected. Quizalize uses this system called Zizish, and basically what the designers of this platform are trying to do is work with other Web 2.0 tools and then put all of the student data for all of these Web 2.0 tools together so that you're able to get a bigger picture of everything that your students are doing. It does give you a visual like this to see which ones need help, which ones are strong, which ones aren't. The dashboard when you're using Quizalize looks like this, and then you can go to the Zizish thing aspect of it. Oops, I guess that's not working. And you can see it does look like this. One thing that's been unfortunate with us in our school is that we do have new filters, and these new filters have made it so that we are unable to use this. I know our IT department has been trying to figure out what the problem is, but you can see I definitely have been trying to send some stuff to students, and they just haven't been able to use it, so I stopped using it. But it's pretty cool because it does put stuff all together. Next up, we've got Google Translate. Google Translate is also another augmented reality application. I definitely discourage the use of Google Translate in my class because I want the students to be doing stuff on their own. However, in an ELL or bilingual class, there's definitely a lot of value to it. Google Translate will translate via a iPad or a phone. You can hold it up to like a sign and it will translate. This video that I've added is kind of fun. It's them doing the song La Bamba. It's pretty cute. One thing that I always tell my students, which is the reason why you shouldn't be using a Google Translate in a foreign language classroom, is that a computer does not have the ability to distinguish differences in language. That doesn't know if I say I want to go back. The computer does not know that I'm saying that I want to return versus a person's body part. But in a situation such as an ELL or bilingual classroom where you have somebody, just newly from their country and not speaking any English at all, Google Translate is a really, really great resource for teachers to be able to utilize so that they're able to get directions to that student and so that they can communicate. My next tool is Google Glass. Google Glass is something that I do not have not had the opportunity of using, but it's definitely very interesting, very innovative. The article that I posted here is a teacher that created an app using Google Glass to work in a foreign language classroom by helping the students be able to pronounce Spanish words in a more authentic way. And in a nutshell, what the Google Glass did, it is the user would put it on their face and then the student would say the words, and then the Google Glass would give them in their eyes this projection that would show them where in their mouth that they need to be, using their tongue in different ways and the different syllabic syllabic sounds. Very, very interesting. I obviously have never had the opportunity to use this in my class, but it would be amazing, and it's something that I think my students would totally be engaged with, and I think that it would be really, really fun. As you can see, though, additionally, just like with augmented reality, there's a lot of hiccups, and there's still a lot of things that the developers need to figure out before it could be something that could be marketed in a massive way to educators all over the place. Okay, next thing that we're going to talk about is Nearpod. So Nearpod is an interactive presentation tool. I feel like it fits in the learning analytics because it does collect data. It also could be used in like a blended learning situation because there is a way that you could access a Nearpod presentation when it's not being presented. And so then the students would be able to access this on their own. So it's collecting data. They could use it on their own. And then maybe possibly you could think of it as gamification. I don't know. There's not as many game ideas in it, but there are some things that possibly could be considered gamification. So on my Nearpod page on my teacher toolkit, I have a link to Nearpod there. I've got a tutorial video to Nearpod, and I've also got an article about how teachers use Nearpod in the classroom. Like I said, in a nutshell, it's an interactive presentation tool. It enables teachers to control student devices. So once the student is logged in, and I'll show you what this looks like in a second, their screens change and the teacher progresses with them. Teachers can also ask questions during the instruction to gauge their understanding. And they can also send students to other websites and videos to further their practice. So on this Nearpod page, in addition to having this article, I also have an example of how a Spanish teacher used Nearpod in their class. But to make it a little more fun for my little viewers here, I'm going to show you guys what it looks like if you are a student using Nearpod and if you are a teacher using Nearpod. So for example, here is a presentation that I created on affirmative commands and direct object pronouns. So as a teacher, I would start my Nearpod lesson, and as a student, I would log into Nearpod, and then I would enter the student pin. So my pin is STDLC. I press go, and I can get rid of this. So this is my screen. I would be controlling my student screen over here, and as you can see, as I scroll through, my student screen is changing. The first thing that it asks is for the students to enter their names. And I can see all of my students. The list will populate with all the students that come in. And then as I go through, it changes the student screen. So I could be given the instruction, and this is also kind of cool if the teachers don't have a projector. There's really no need for it because you could go through the whole thing and it's on the student devices. This works on phones, and it does also work on the computer. So as I would go through my presentation, I would go through my instruction, and the things would be changing on the student's screen. And then I might pose a question just to see how my students are doing and if they understand or not. So as a student then, I would enter my answer, and I would press send. And as my network catches up, you'll see in a second, it will show up with what my answer is. And I can either share this out to all the students so that they could see how everybody answered, or we could just talk about it together. So 100% of my students, because I'm the only one in there, said Kanta, which was the correct answer, and that could bring up a discussion in the class. Okay. Additionally, in my Nearpod page, I've also created a link to a lesson that I gave. I am one of the technology instructors for our technology academies, and last summer I gave a class on interactive presentations, and Nearpod was one of them. So in these instructions that I've added here, I've got a link to the actual Web 2.02 itself, and I've discussed the pros and the cons of it to decide whether or not that might be something that you would want to use. Lastly, in my teacher toolkit, I've given some links to videos. This video link talks about top 5 educational trends for 2015. iPads and tablets talks about. There's other ones that I've actually listed already. This video also talks about some other trends. Digital storytelling is the slide that you see this one about. Gives students the opportunity to tell stories and utilize Web 2.0 tools to tell their what they know visually. And then lastly, I have created a page on other articles. So we've got global trends in language learning in the 21st century. We've got games in language learning, and then contributing and creating and curating digital literacies for language learners. And all of these links are live, and when you click on them, they will bring you to the article, which I guess I have to fix this one. I will fix this one before this gets turned in, because clearly that one's not working. So that is it. This is my teacher toolkit. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope that maybe you've learned some things that you could use in your classrooms as well. And thanks for watching.